Yeah, let's bring in, we have a great panel with us, and we're already in the middle of the conversation here. John Avlon is the former director of speechwriting for Giuliani's campaign. Nicole Wallace is a former senior McCain campaign advisor and a veteran of campaigns and working in the White House. And Bernard Whitman is a former pollster to President Clinton. All right, you guys, what's your reaction to this? John, you start.
I mean, it's shocking. It seems premature. I think they're likely to lose more political capital than to stop any bleeding. And you know, I think Daschle could have cleared the Geithner standard. He was likely to pass. He's well respected in the Senate. And the larger question it raises is, if there is this new standard in place, are they going to take down other people? This has been a real distraction for the Obama administration. This is not a good day. And maybe one of the upsides will be that there's some tax simplification that goes through, because these laws are just too complicated.
Just coined a new phrase, the Obama administration. That's where we are.
There you go.
All right, what do you think this means for the Obama administration, Nicole?
I keep thinking of the Saturday Night Live skit. It had George Bush as its target, but I think it applies here. Being president is hard work. Yeah. I mean, it's a lot more difficult to run the country than it is to slogan and to live by a slogan on the campaign trail. And I think a lot of normal people, my father keeps saying, there was just one guy that was capable of running Treasury. How come you couldn't find a guy that had paid all his taxes? People do not understand how it is so hard to find people to fill these spots that haven't failed to pay their taxes. And I think that Obama cherishes his brand more than anything. I think they had to draw a line somewhere.
Yeah, I'm thinking you got it. If you're Tim Geithner, you're going, whew, you know? Yeah. I mean, I'm the one who made it in under the wire, and then things unraveled after me. Timing in life is everything, right, Bernard?
Yeah, I think it's a great loss. I mean, Tom Daschle has been an extraordinary public servant for 30 years. He admitted a mistake. He paid his taxes. He paid the penalties. He paid the interest. He came clean. He was honest and upfront about it, and he still ultimately got axed.
The problem was that he discovered it. Here's what I'm understanding, and correct me if you guys think any of this is wrong, is that he asked his accountant, is that a problem? We need to check into the car thing. They identified the issue and didn't pay it. Then, when it turned out that he was being considered for this position, that's when he paid it. And I think to a lot of folks who hear that in America, they go, you know, that doesn't pass the smell test. I mean, if you find out something's wrong, you got to fess up just for the purpose of correcting the wrong, not for the purpose of making sure you can get into the...
But I mean, you know, to John's point, the tax code is very complicated. He raised the issue. Sure. He raised the issue with his accountant about the car and driver, and then he found out, sort of while this whole thing was going on, that one of his consulting clients had left off income off his 1099, right. So he had to file an amended return.
They never sent him a 1099 form, which, you know, let's face it, taxes are extremely complicated. I mean, I saw, you know, one editorial the other day said, you know, if anything, this is an argument for a flat tax.
Yes.
I mean, it is
I totally agree, and maybe Democrats will find religion on this issue. I mean, during the campaign, Austin Goolsbee had proposed an Obama tax simplification plan where they would, you know, you'd get your receipt at the end of the year and sign it if it made sense to you. You know, those sorts of simplification plans can make a big difference, because there's so much chaos and confusion out there, and it's taking down people, and it's becoming a barrier for public service to a lot more people than just Tom Daschle.
But here's the thing: I think we expect that the people that are going to run the country can play by the same rules that you have and that you have. It might be complicated. It might be hard, but I'm sure you paid all your taxes. I paid all my taxes. I was in the White House for 6 years. You fill out a financial disclosure every year, and you have to hold yourself to a higher standard if you want to be in a leadership position. So I think, you know, I think these are well-liked people. They were respected, and I think we now know that they haven't paid all their taxes, and I think it's certainly appropriate for us to hold them to a level of at least doing what all of us are expected to do, which is pay our taxes.
I think that in America, that's absolutely true. But if you make a mistake and you make amends, you get to start again. And I think the problem here was that Tom Daschle was the right man for an extraordinary job. He had the backing of the president, seemingly so, and then suddenly that all crumbled. And I do think that is going to make things much more difficult for this administration and others going forward.
The thing that complicated the Tom Daschle issue is also his relationship with these healthcare firms. He was not registered as a lobbyist, but he did do work for CVS Caremark, for United Healthcare, for a number of health organizations. So it's really a double-edged sword, because the way that he gained all of this healthcare experience that made him so qualified to be in this position was also part of what ended up killing him. And also, address this, if you will, people who've been in public service their whole life, you know, he was in the Air Force, then he became a congressman, then he became a senator, then they get out, want to make some money, you get burned for it.
You guys all do your live shows.
Here's Robert Gibbs. We'll have more after this. Yeah, I bet he wished he'd been driving it for the past couple of years, probably today. Let's get back to our panel. Nicole Wallace, you spent a lot of time working in the White House and working on how the United States perceives what's going on in there. So is this ultimately a win that Daschle is gone here, or does it change the theme, as Brett Baer was saying? You don't want a theme to build that you don't want to build?
Well, let me just defend this White House for a minute. The White House vetting process is only as good as the information they receive from the people being vetted. It's not their job to, you know, interrogate a nominee. It's not their job to apply forensic accounting measures to a nominee's taxes. It's the nominee's job to bring information to the vetters, you know, like Jerry Maguire, help me, help you.
Right.
And Daschle didn't do that. So I think it's you know, people on both sides of the aisle like him and respect him, but I think that the Obama administration had to draw a line somewhere where they protected their brand of change.
Yeah, and you know, we were talking about this a little bit during the news conference. It is the person's responsibility. If you want the job, you got to come clean. And so I would think that they're looking at Tom Daschle and saying, how could you do this to us? How could you put us in this position?
Yeah, absolutely, especially after the president yesterday voiced a strong support, and then today sort of has to explain why, you know, the rug's been cut out from under him. This is, you know, Tom Daschle's definitely missing that Pontiac. This would have been a lot simpler if he hadn't gotten himself in what is, to most Americans, a very inexplicable situation involving paying Medicaid taxes on a loaned limo. So that just right away spirals into difficulty. This is a bad day for the Obama administration. They wanted to be talking about Judd Gregg, their third Republican nominee for the cabinet, and instead they've got a mess on their hands.
But in the end, is it good, Bernard, that people are shocked that this fell apart? Because then the administration can ultimately stand up and say, you know, when push came to shove, we're going to stand by our standard, even when it affects our old friend Tom Daschle.
Look, I think it's an unfortunate loss for the country. I think Daschle would have been a great choice. But I rarely agree with Mitch McConnell. The best thing to come out of this is we've got to put the attention squarely on the stimulus plan.
And I think that's partly what they tried to do today, to get this off the table. Right?
Right, and I think that the Obama administration will be well served by incorporating some of the amendments that the Republicans have to offer, both because I do believe we need to pass this bill with Republican support, and I think by including some additional aid to homeowners, some more money into infrastructure, it makes it a better bill.
Right. And they want tomorrow's panel on the live desk to talk about the stimulus package like we've been doing for days instead of Tom Daschle, which we spent the last couple of days on. But thank you very much, you guys. Good to have you here.